Hey.
Hi.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. We were very not dressed for the weather.
It's like 30 degrees outside and we both rocked up in like jeans and long
All
sleeves.
black, everything as well. Very.
But to be fair, I texted you this morning and said, what are you wearing? And you said, oh, I don't know, probably jeans. And so I wore jeans.
And here we are.
Also,
sweating.
I also texted you this morning and then forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I was teaching yoga. And then you know how you don't just send one message, you send like 20 messages on fire. And so in the middle of the yoga class, it's like
Oh no!
And by the
speaker.
through the speaker. And by the time I got to the front of the room, you're already like 7 messages deep. I'm like, oh my God, this could not get any worse.
Sorry about that. So
It's okay.
quite a few people have pulled me up on my texting
But
technique.
I feel like I do the same.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. It was my own fault for not being on silent.
Yeah, true. I always worry about that when I teach breath work, when people are like just getting in and laying on the mat, and then I've got this beautiful peaceful music on, and then it's like ding, ding, ding. That's happened a couple of times. I've learned the hard way.
Yeah.
But anywho.
Yeah. What's going on for you at the moment?
It's all happening as per usual. But I'm excited actually. This week I am booked in to get a tattoo random.
Ooh.
Yeah, so on
I act surprised, just to be clear. I already know this, everyone.
Yeah, so I'm getting a tattoo. I think if I did a tally, I've probably got already maybe 10 tattoos, and they're all very little, and I feel like tattoos are a really nice way to express an art, and I don't know, I'm into it. But this particular one is special because I'm actually an ambassador for it. It's called In Pieces, and they basically collaborate with a tattoo artist to create a puzzle piece, and then all of those puzzle pieces get broken up and purchased by different people, and then that puzzle piece then gets tattooed on each individual. So I'm having my puzzle piece tattooed this week, which I'm really excited about. And all of the money goes towards suicide sort of prevention and the space of mental health. And In Pieces is a really I just think it's a really cool way that it's brought community together in this like creative way to break down that stigma and talk about things like suicide and mental health. And I think it's a really powerful way of bringing community together. So I'm actually really excited about that. So that's happening.
What's your number again?
1844.
Epic.
Yep. So 1844. Anywho, so that's just a little bit of fun that's happening this week. What about you?
Epic. What about me? Just mad race to the finish line. I don't know when this episode will be out though, so that might be irrelevant. But I went to the Kid Leroy concert actually.
Sick.
When was that? Maybe on Friday night?
I'm acting like I'm surprised, but obviously I was like
watching
your stories and knew all about it. You asked me if I was going to.
I know. Yeah, my brother just randomly was like, oh, do you want to come? And I was like, I don't really know any of his music, but sure. But I realized I actually did know
his
music. I just didn't know that I knew. But it was kind of confusing. He goes from like hectic rap to like pop. I was a bit like, whoa, I'm being taken on a journey here. But I was into it. But yeah, one of my goals this year, which I feel like I've spoken about on the podcast before, was to see more live music, because when you're like me and you kind of prioritize sobriety, like especially as I get into my early 30s, like sometimes I just can't be bothered. I can't be bothered to go out if I'm not drinking, because it's like more of an effort and like whatever. But yeah, I feel like in the last 3 weeks or something, I went to Matt Corby, I went to Peggy Goo, and now the Kid Leroy.
What an eclectic, just broad range of music. I love that. Live music is a vibe. It's where it's at, and it's the season to be out and about dancing in the sunshine. So let's go. Oh my gosh, we have a really special guest joining us today. I'm so loving having guests. I've really loved this evolution of, you and I beginning the pod together, and now just getting to share these couches with incredible people. And today we are very fortunate to welcome a very good friend of mine to Rushing Slowly, Matthew Thomas. He is a cinematographer, a videographer, DOP, incredibly insightful, deep, creative talent. I was trying to think about this on the way here. We met, I want to say like just during the COVID period. We met through a mutual friend that I was spending a bit of time with at that time. And they lived together, and so I was spending a fair bit of time at their house, and I would, go around there, and if Matty wasn't there, I'd always be like, damn it, where is he? But when you just meet somebody, and from the minute that you meet them, you just connect. And it was like that from day dot. It was an effortless connection, so much to have conversation about, and that's only evolved over the years of us spending a little bit more time together. So recently he just created a feature length documentary called Bound by Distance, which I imagine we'll get into today, and I was so fortunate to be at the launch of that, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. He's so talented, but I know for him getting to that point and putting out into the world what he did with that creation, it took a lot from him, physically, spiritually, mentally. So I'm really excited to welcome him onto the pod today and just find out a little bit more about him and his journey.
Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me to hear that you guys instantly connect. Like connected. He is just such a lovable person, but also he's so open, like such an open book. Yeah, it was so special actually to be able to hear his story. So you guys are gonna love it. So let's get into it.
You
Enjoy.
Before we start this episode, as a very passionate Warramungu Yari woman, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land we are recording this podcast from, and honour their ongoing connection to country, community and culture. I wouldn't be me without the sacrifices of my ancestors, and for that I pay my deepest respect and extend that respect with love to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and all elders past and present. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Rolling. We have a very special guest joining us on the Rushing Slowly set today, and sets are absolutely no stranger to you, Matty. It's so exciting to have you on our couches. I feel like this has been a bit of a long time coming, and I had this idea to welcome you onto the podcast after seeing some recent work of yours and knowing what you've been going through recently and how hard you've been working. And I just thought you're going to be the perfect person to sit down and have a bit of a yarn with, like we do with every episode. Shall we just start with our mindful breath?
Yes, and then we'll let Matt talk. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, eyes can be open or closed. Just take a nice easy breath in and breathing out.
So welcome.
Thanks, guys.
How are you?
I'm good. Tired, but I'm very good.
I know it feels like this time of the year, isn't it? It's just go, go, go. All systems go.
But why are you tired?
I just came off a shoot for the last 3 days for a festival called A3. Don't actually shoot much music at all anymore. This is probably about 7 years ago. It was like the last time I did anything music related, but they had a bit of a different vision and the crew seemed good. So went out there and did 3 15-hour days. So
No wonder you're tired.
No wonder I'm tired.
That'll do it.
That'll do it.
So we always start this podcast by asking ourselves and our guests the same question, which is, what is keeping you rushing at the moment?
Yeah. A few things that are, I think there's a combination of things. One's just this time of year that always seems to make me rush, I think. In other years, it's probably done it a little bit more. So probably just trying to squeeze all the last bits and tick off those little bits that you really wanted to get done is keeping me rushing. Also, I'm in the process of getting a new business ready for next year. with some other business partners, and that's just a big new pursuit. So that's kind of keeping me rushing. My year will end a little bit early because I'm going actually in to have some surgery, which is a bit crazy. But that's, yeah, I think those kind of three things are making me rush. I mean, I've only really got 2 weeks until my year's up. So just trying to cram it all in and cash up because that December-Jan period for most of our industry is pretty quiet time.
Yeah. What's the business that you're starting?
Yeah. So the new business is a production studio. I have been running kind of an end-to-end production service for probably like the last 7-8 years, 5 years full-time, but I don't want to do it on my own anymore. It's fantastic and it's great, and I've got lots of contractors, but in terms of like you're on Monday morning, you walk into a space, you sit down to get ready for the week, like a lot of it's on my own. So yeah, starting a new studio for a few reasons, but one of them is to work with other people.
How exciting. And that's
epic.
Something that we talk about a lot when with the work that we all find ourselves in, a little bit like of that freelancer. Zoe's a therapist, so a lot of it is very isolated and you spend a lot of time by yourself, and how exciting to be able to now share the load but also share that experience and just be around other people from day to day. I mean, obviously you talked about you've kind of been doing the end-to-end production for the last 5 years, but I want to take it back even further than that and figure out kind of where it all began. Obviously for you working in this creative space, some of the things that you've been able to create, particularly recently, and I'm really excited to talk to you about your recent feature film that I was so lucky and grateful that I got to be there for the launch. But before we get to that, where did your love for cinematography and filmmaking begin?
Yeah, awesome. I'll go right back. So I actually started in stills and in photography. That was love. Where did that begin? Do this really quick and succinct, but
don't feel like you need to do
No
it
rush.
quick. No rush.
Yeah, true. I mean, it is a
and it's
podcast.
your story, and it's important to. We want to get to know you.
All right. So school was a real challenge for me. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 6, and that was an interesting thing in itself. But yeah, so the school environment was always just a real challenge. Like always paddling upstream. There were like, as I got older, year 9 and 10, there'd be like one year that I would try, the other just be disheartened and just be like, forget this, and would play up a lot. I think it would have been about 14 or 15, and I still loved my sport, so I had something to keep me alive there. I was doing little athletics, and I saw this photographer with this big lens, and I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting and crazy, and got really interested in what he was taking photos of, and just I don't know, it was just really intrigued me. I think my parents at the similar time bought me a little Samsung point and shoot, like a couple $100 maybe. And I just was really fascinated about taking photos in the garden, bees and leaves. And I don't know, just loved it. I don't know, it was something that I enjoyed, and I probably didn't think of it too seriously at that time at all. I just kind of did it. Then it would have been, year 10, I had my media teacher lean over my shoulder, and she was like, oh, that's like really, those photos are really nice. And by that time I was, shooting a bit better, but still nothing crazy. And that was probably one of the first serious compliments that I'd had in school. So besides for sport and things like that, and that, I don't know, to get a compliment in the classroom was foreign, and it was almost like, it was crazy to me. So yeah, that kind of lit me up a little bit, and decided this is probably something I might like to do. I actually dropped out of school at the end of year 11, said to my parents I can't do it. I was very lucky and unbelievably well supported in just being able to do what I want as long as I had a plan. So I went into did a cert for a photography at RMIT. Then I did a diploma, and that was my first experience of being in an education system that I loved. Like I loved it. I was obsessed, and I was very competitive. Probably could have made a few more mates, but I did feel a little survival there. I felt like I have to make this work, otherwise I haven't got much. So yeah, I mean, I would sleep at uni because I lived in Country Vic. So if I missed the train at midnight, then I would just stay there and I would just shoot in the studio, go back, tinker away, edit, and just be on this rotating thing for about 2 years. And in my second year, I went to the cinema. I saw a Australian film called Breath, which is a Tim Winton adaptation. Simon Baker is
My hall pass.
yeah. Honestly,
Sorry,
same.
guys.
Honestly, same. Like big time. And I don't know what it was about them. I think it was just incredibly relatable. The Australian relationships within that, and the relationship to nature, and the way that they displayed it. And I just remember sitting in that and just looking. I was at Cinema Nova, and I just thought, how are they making these images? Like, it just seems it seems so impossible and so hard. And I remember walking out of the cinema with my mum, and I was like, I felt almost out of body. I felt a bit like, I could have just been like really hungry or whatever. Who knows? But I did feel very moved and a bit like, it just felt like a big moment. Like, mum was like, I've got to go to Woolies. I was like, cool, I'm going to stand out of Woolies, and I felt really out of it.
And were you still like 17, 16?
And so I would have been, let's say 18, maybe closer to 19 probably.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was definitely the moment where I was like, motion is what I'm going to do. So I pitched to my lecturers that I would do a motion folio instead of stills, and just kind of did the both. And yeah, I was lucky enough to get a job offered to me on the night of our showing. And yeah, the hard work paid off. And since then, it's just been I don't know how much you want me to take you along the journey, but it's just been that's kind of where it started. Yeah.
Oh, incredible. So now you just do motion and not so much stills? Or?
I will take stills occasionally from time to time. I do think the principles are the same. So if there's need for it, absolutely. But yeah, much more motion.
And also, you didn't want to have that big, beautiful moment in Woolies?
No, I don't think so. It was definitely out of it. It felt very funny. There was enough going on. Yeah.
I want to take it back to actually where you talked about realizing that you were dyslexic.
Yep.
And how much that obviously influenced your ability to learn and enjoy school, and what a brave thing to be able to do. And like you said, very fortunate, lucky that you had the support to be able to go, actually, I'm really struggling to learn and be in this space. I need to make that change and decide to go off and study in other ways. But what was it like for you back then, figuring out that you had this thing and that it really kind of limited you in some ways? It would have been hard at such a young age.
Yeah, I think there were pros and cons to being diagnosed so young. How was it? I mean, it was very discombobulating. It didn't really make sense as a kid, and it felt isolating, knowing that you were just different. Maybe even more so than actually having it, just knowing that, knowing that you had it was strange. I think it was strange because I was being very lucky that I've been surrounded by two parents that, of hardworking, have a crack, always. So I've always, God bless, I've had this desire to always try. But it was so disheartening when, you'd be trying as hard or if not harder than people in the room, but that needle just wouldn't shift. It was definitely hard. I think it was made harder by certain experiences, certain teachers. Kids are mean. So yeah, it was a challenge for sure.
How did it impact your social relationships?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think again, going back to sport, I think if I didn't have a natural ability to play sport, I think I would have crumbled way more.
Mm.
I think because I could pick up the footy and I could move naturally, and I could, I was run faster than anyone else, and that kind of meant that I got out of I don't know, people, boys didn't, that was like it was like a respect, even at a young age almost, it like helped. But especially as I got older, I started to realize, my friends would use that as a dig. So that was harder. So how did it affect me socially is not so much like just anyone, but then your mates at school, they would like, you know what kids are like. You get a little, everyone gets, someone says something, someone says something. So that would get used a lot within friendship groups of like, oh, you dummy, or you're so dumb you can't even read, and like all of it. Like so yeah, it was bloody hard. Yeah.
Do you think that has an impact on you now in your adult life?
For sure. I mean, I've been in a really interesting journey over the last forever of I'll go back. The way that it's affected me is that it's put this like unshakable burn. Like from when I figured out that there was something that I liked, and I'm thinking in pictures, this works for me. That drive and fire is instilled because of that hardship, and there wasn't just the kids, but I had this one teacher in year 3 that every second week would pull me up in front of the class. She knew she wasn't meant to either, and just let me crumble like in front of the class, like real cruel stuff. So that kind of instilled an amazing burn in me that's unstoppable, and I've got like this ability to work like at a level that I think is pretty unstoppable. And how that affects me now is now I'm having to learn to, it's okay, dude. Like you get to be okay. It's like a survival. It's like I survive by going, I'll outwork anyone in the room. But that's a problem as you get older.
Yeah.
Because it starts to impact your mental and physical health. As you get older, it affects your relationships. So I don't know if I really answered the question.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of how that has affected me now. Yeah.
Like even the way that you like quite flippantly named that when you were at RMIT, you would like spend the night at the university because you're up until midnight. I'm like, my mind is like, wait, what?
Yeah. I think the other thing as well, Taco, and this has only been like a real development in the last 18 months. I've known that I've had ADHD along that. Most dyslexics will also diagnose ADHD. I wasn't diagnosed with that. But in the last 18 months, I've realized that probably had more of an impact on me than I could even comprehend, because, obviously there's so much that goes into that. But I think there's been a multitude of things how all of that affected me. It's been a blessing, because a lot of my mates will say you've got the double-edged sword. Like none of us can work like you, but you're also like you're your own detriment. Like you don't know when to stop. And it's like my own superpower but curse. Like
you're preaching to the choir a little bit here.
Very
but
relatable.
You're like an extreme. That's why I was so like adamant to get you on here, because I've seen and not even in the full depth and breadth of the way that you work, but I've been fortunate enough to, as a friend over the years, like kind of witness the things that you've been able to create, and in particular of recent, which we will get to. But knowing that now, as you said, as you get to being an adult, there's so many things that you sacrifice along the way when you work at the extreme level that you do. And the first thing really that often happens is your health is the first one that goes. And I mean, you just mentioned at the start you're going to have your tonsils removed, aren't you?
Yeah. So I'm going into surgery in 2 weeks' time to have them out, which I'm not really excited for. My physical health has been seriously compromised by, I wouldn't even say it's just like the physical work, but it's the mind load, and it's the stress and my stress, and all that fire that's built up from being a kid, and that drive is, again, that's like and you know, also having ADHD, it means like the brain never stops. Oh my God, it never stops. So yeah, going into surgery and getting that done. But yeah, it's been a rough year for my health. My partner, you know, she's said since she's known me sick more than healthy.
Wow.
So it's
Is that a bit of a wake up call for you?
it's a huge. I know. I mean, I know it. I mean, I'm sick of it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had tonsillitis like 15 proper times
Wow.
and 20-ish times, minor. And but it's I'm always just not quite fully healthy, and that's been a real. It's been a real challenge this year and a huge wake up call. Huge wake up call. Yeah, if I keep going like this till I'm 30, like I don't even, it's a bit scary to think what the health repercussions could be. So working on it big time. Not just from like a physical thing of like, oh, I need to get this done, but working with like really good psych. I've been fortunate that I've been seeing a really good psych for the last, since I was young. Quite young teens, but I've just recently started seeing a new clinical psych. He's very brilliant. And just unpacking lots there, and I'm doing work in all the right areas to try and rush slowly.
Are you noticing the benefits of that yet, or does it feel like a slower burn?
I'm absolutely feeling the benefits from seeing my new psych. It's been intense, like it always is. But the biggest thing I went to him was I'm already quite self-aware of myself. I know, where my triggers and where my trauma stemmed from. The biggest thing just been trying to unpack with him is like, right, let's like start to pull apart this ADHD, because that's getting in the way of me being able to handle like things that happened, like all, trauma bits that happened as a kid, that can't really be addressed because I haven't really dealt with this ADHD thing. And the more I've been working with him, the more I've realized like, oh my goodness, like I do, get distracted when I'm mid conversation, and I do feel rejection strongly, and it's just been so it's been beneficial, really beneficial. Yeah.
This is a very intimate question, and if you don't want to go here, that's fine. But how do you feel about yourself on the inside?
Yeah. That's such a good question. I really love who I am. Yeah. Really, really proud of who I am. Definitely wasn't always like that, and still in a pursuit of learning to love myself with nothing else. Like just me sitting down on a couch with a friend, or me just sitting in a park on my own. Like I'm enough without any of it. I did a retreat. I'm gonna say roughly 18 months ago with my friend who's a psychotherapist. And that was like a big turn of the page, that kind of trip of like, oh no, I'm enough without the cameras, without what I dress, the car you drive, anything. It's a pursuit. You got to be really conscious of it. But I would say right now, I really do. I love and feel really good in who I am.
And sorry, can I also ask? I mean, how is it to hear yourself say that out loud?
Yeah, it's a nice feeling.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it is a
bet.
nice feeling.
Right.
And so you should. And that's why, I mean, you're such an easy to love person. Like you've just got this aura, and you're so engaging, and you're just a great human. And I'm so glad to know that you feel that way about yourself in the same way that we feel about you as friends. I actually want to go back before we go a little bit more into your work, because I want to ask you about some of the projects, and like you've worked with some incredible brands, and we'll dive there. But because you touched on that retreat, I remember we did speak about this. Can you give a little bit more insight actually into what occurred on this retreat? Because I think from a male perspective, it's really powerful what you went and did.
Yeah, for sure. Let me have a think about this. Okay, so my friend Darren Riley, who I've known since year 3, so he saw it all. He knows the
OG.
teacher that did all the bits and stuff. He has been working alongside a company that registered psychotherapists overseas. Now, it's a tricky area because it's some of the work they do, they would say, is not particularly, legal in this environment in Australia, right? Because it's essentially therapy under the course of microdosing certain things and all of this type of stuff. But the weekend
sorry to clarify, like psychedelic
yeah,
assisted therapy?
So he does lots of different retreats. The one I did was medicinal MDMA. Obviously, like I will preface, this is all under the guidance of like people that really know what they're doing. And it's like you sit around a fire and just take things and you talk. You have a book. It's very well laid out and guided and safe. So we did medicinal MDMA and then some, they call it San Pedro cactus, which is, I'm not even quite sure where it is, but essentially you brew it into like a tea and you drink it. And the best way to describe it is it's essentially the same kind of influence as like psilocybin mushrooms. So the weekend, the way it's structured is you get together, there are other men there. Honestly, like I cannot, like we need Darren. Like we need more men like that to take these things for other men and to, be it, psychotherapy or just therapy. Doesn't matter, or just these retreats in general. That doesn't have to be what I did, but I'd been doing enough therapy for like the last decade that I was up for something new and to see. But get together, you meet all these guys, and then you just go through this booklet, and it's an amazing booklet. And these questions just really, ask you and influence kind of your thought patterns in a way that really allow you to just be honest. And you go around the circle and you start with like, well, what do you want to get out of the weekend and things like that. And you do all these like group activities together, and it was really special and beautiful to just see, and you got different types there. You've got guys like me. I'm pretty open and honest. I don't have, but then you got real like stoic Queensland ex-rugby players that just, and at the start they're really not, and then by the end they're like arm in arm with you, like crying. And you're like, come on, it's amazing. So that was an incredible journey. The other thing we did, which is wild out there, we did scream therapy.
Epic.
And at first, like context scream therapy, you honestly get to a, and you think about anything that you've been holding on to, any angers, trauma, anything, and then you just scream as hard as you can. We did it out across this lake. It's all, I can understand probably like the woo-woo wacky, I don't care, whatever. Anyway, it was it blew my mind because even when we started to do it, I was like, oh, this is, I don't know, it's confronting. It was confronting, really confronting, but at the same time, like, I don't know, I think once a year, like going somewhere and just letting out like your greatest, largest scream, that'll do things.
What a release.
Yeah, it was insane, honestly. Like, and every single dude after it like broke into tears.
Which
and like,
is so powerful.
Doesn't that just show though, like, if you're gonna just go and scream, and then the instant like psychological reaction is to cry. It's obviously like a release of some kind. So yeah. That was that weekend. And that was a really good, turning page of a lot of things. I mean, it's something I'll preface, like you can't rely on a weekend like that. I've been doing work for years. I just knew going into that, these are the things I need to like try and, because obviously like coming from school and all, obviously like, oh, this one thing makes me enough.
Yeah.
So obviously that's been obviously a main anchor point. But
I mean, there's so much research and funding at the moment going into like psychedelic assisted therapy for this exact reason. And I think where there are implications to this method is that people think, oh, now there's this thing at the top that I can grab that's going to be the solve to all of my problems, which it can be an incredibly powerful tool as like a amplification to like the work that you're already doing.
For sure. I think absolutely it's not going to, and nothing's going to be an absolute fix. Where I do think it really helps is, and this isn't, I don't even think I necessarily, we do all fall into this category, but for people who've got really deep traumas and things like that, like I think that's where the research is showing that it helps just like get the ball rolling on processing.
Well, and the way that you answered that question, which I think such a great question to ask, you know, how do you actually feel about yourself? You wouldn't get to that place of being able to answer that question with all of the things that you have experienced in your life, and the, you know, the things that have, you know, impacted you and hurt you, and you wouldn't have been able to answer that question had you have not been open enough to explore work and put yourself in these places to be able to unpack and you know, get the trauma out and scream it out and roar it out. And, you know, you're a direct result as who you are right now because of all of the willingness to do the work. And
For sure.
every human on this planet has experienced hardship, and it always will exist within inside of us. And unless you're willing to pull it out in different ways and different methods like that, you know, it remains stuck. And so
100%.
it's nice to hear that you feel the way that you do about yourself because you've put in the work to feel it.
Well, and it's nice that you're a man who is willing, because what you said before about the screaming turning into the crying, like often, not always, anger can be like a secondary emotion. It's like actually we might feel really vulnerable and afraid or sad, and therefore it comes out in anger. And I think that this is common in a lot of men, right? That it's socially acceptable for a man to be angry, right? Of course it's not in many circumstances, but you know, it's more common for a man to get angry. But often what's underneath that anger is a quality of sadness or vulnerability. But because societally we don't allow men to access those parts of themselves more readily, that creates a whole host of
absolutely.
problems.
Like I resonate with that, and I've thought about it a lot. That I was an angry. I wasn't necessarily an angry kid, but I felt anger.
Yeah.
I felt anger at school, and you know, but that's all absolutely a result of just being sad. Absolutely. Like I feel like there's a very like natural connection between a man feels sad, turn into aggression or turn into anger. Like that it feels weirdly natural for, like when I think about when I'm sad, I get angry. Not anymore, but I would say it's natural just to get that anger because it feels like, you know, there's nowhere to put it. And it's like, you know, you bottle up sadness into a jar. It's like it's gonna like, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, sadness
perfectly put. I'm not really saying anything groundbreaking right now, but it just resonates a lot.
Yeah, like sadness requires vulnerability, and like it's like boys don't cry, so don't show that. But like to be angry is like powerful, right? So like to feel powerful as opposed to vulnerable is like.
For sure. I mean, if there's anything I could say to any other men or anyone who has a male in their life here is, it is so much more powerful and so much more masculine to be able to talk about how you're feeling, and it's so much more strong, powerful, and masculine to like go and speak to a professional. I would have not even made it to 27 if I hadn't have had professional help. That's a reality, and I think the reason why I will continue to do what I do and succeed is directly connected to the fact that my other full-time job is unpacking my mind and use it's a job, and it's good. And the more that I learn about myself and the more that I understand all my triggers and this and that, and that's why I did that, or I need to go use that toolkit now. Like come on, it makes you stronger. If any dudes are like, that's weak, I'm like, you're actually like, you've got it wrong. That will make you you things will start happening in your life you didn't even know, because you're just able to, I don't know. It's way more powerful to have that toolkit. Yeah.
Preach.
Okay, and let's just wrap up there.
Yeah.
That's all we need. Thank you.
Mic drop. That's why we love you. Fuck, Matty, you're such a legend, and that's such an important, powerful thing to share, particularly because we know how many men suffer so silently. It's like, it's sad and so scary and
crazy.
It's unnecessary.
And it's so unnecessary.
It's unnecessary.
It is unnecessary.
So thank you for leading by example in this space, because it's should just be the way, right? Like, and you're so right. Like, I resonate with that too, because the more work that I do on myself, even if it's like I've noticed lately I haven't been doing my own breathwork practice as much, and I've done a couple in the last 2 weeks, and far out, just going to a breathwork class for 1 hour made such a difference to my whole week pretty much from there. And that's just one thing, like, when you're actively doing those things all the time makes such a huge difference. But could definitely spend a lot of time in this conversation, and no doubt we'll kind of flow back into it in other areas. But I do want to talk about your work because this is a big beast in itself. You are a talented, creative genius. Your mind is so, the intricate detail of some of the work that you've put out into the world is fucking unbelievable. So I want to firstly talk about some of the work that you've done. You've worked with incredible brands over the years. What would you say has been something that you consider a real highlight or memory that you just go, fuck yeah, I'm so glad I ticked that box?
Oh, that is a big question. Wow. Okay. I feel like there's been quite a lot of moments where I feel like I kind of ticked that box, did that. The one that is front of mind is what happened this year, probably. Like, I feel like that was the large pursuit of just creating a feature length project. I think, that's probably the that's just what's fresh on mind at the moment. I mean, there's been lots, like getting the opportunity to go overseas and shoot was like, if that ever happened, that would be crazy. And, that's happened well more than once now, which is amazing. I mean, there's been little highlights and catch yourself moments of like, where am I? Like, how am I here? But I think sitting in the cinema, what was it, a month and a little bit ago, and, seeing the credits roll and just seeing such a turnout and that was probably one of the most special things I've experienced. Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, what was this special
Yeah,
project?
so the project was a documentary called Bound by Distance, where we kind of explore the meaning of connection and community, but through the lens of running, and through this one group of kind of ordinary people. They're not like ultra athletes. I mean, some of them are definitely amazing athletes, but just a group of people from a running community here in Melbourne that go over to the States to do a project called a run called the Speed Project. And it's this unsanctioned, like Mad Max style race between LA to Vegas.
Which is how far?
500 and something, 560 kilometers or something. So each runner does about 100. I think each runner did do about 100 Ks in the end. So the trick of it is you can't stop. So there has to be a runner running at each time. So that creates a lot of logistics and safety, and a lot of room for error. So, what that meant for me was, and, I will put this out there actually, just because once maybe people hear this, is we got budget obviously to get the crew there, but we had zero production budget, like none. Like, I put money in and some of the producers I worked with put a little bit of money into, but so that, that resulted in, one camera operator for the whole thing. So, first nap was after, I don't know, 40 something hours. It was wild.
Wait, just to clarify, you are the one camera operator?
I am the one camera operator.
Just making sure. Yeah.
Sole
Wow.
I
operator.
was the one camera operator. Yeah.
Wow.
And when people, I'm so grateful that I got to watch that. It motivated me in so many different ways. For one, it made me want to just get out and go for a run like that night. But then it also was like far out, like, wow, like I want to not work. Well, yes, a little bit, like I want to work a bit harder, and just that was like such a powerful story that you told. But far out, speaking of mental health and physical health being so compromised, I mean, you got real sick before you even went over there, didn't you?
Yeah, I was just to get ready to do it this year has been hard because, and I think only other business or solo operators will understand this, but like I wasn't making any money from this project. Like this was just me doing it. So I still had to freelance and maintain and manage all my other clients while preparing and while making a feature. Like, to be honest, honestly, a bit crazy. I don't think I would never do it the way I did it again, but you don't know what you don't know. So yeah, I did. I was just incredibly sleep deprived before going, just trying to get everything done. I was conducting, all the interviews. Like I wanted to get everyone like just the week before, and I was conducting it as it should have been conducted, just with nowhere near the support that I needed. So yeah, it was cooked before going, and then I got over there and was feeling okay. And then the night before the race started, I got all the gear ready, really knackered. We're jet lagged, everything. And that afternoon, the day before the race, my eyes just started to feel a bit funky. And my partner had conjunctivitis only a couple of weeks beforehand. I was like, here we go. This has probably just been dormant there. And as soon as my immune system got compromised, it's flared up. And it just got worse and worse. Like by that afternoon, I won't get into too much detail, but you can just look it up what it is. But itchy, gunky, just every hour your eyes are just filling up with like sleep. You wake up with sleep, but like fucked up.
And you were already over there when that had happened.
Yeah, I was over there.
And in both of your eyes?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, it was, and getting really swollen. And yeah, it was. There's a few photos of me on that Instagram video, and yeah, it was not pretty. So I got like a video consultation to get. I knew straight away, I was like, I'm gonna need antibiotics. It's the only way I'll get through this. So I got that, but yeah, it was clean out my eyes and set the alarm for 2 a.m. to get down to Santa Monica Pier, and was just like fully embraced like, okay, this is just the other challenge, and I'm just gonna have to deal with it. So yeah, it was hard because I could see, but everything was blurry the whole time, like just faded. More so than the vision, it was just the general uncomfortability and not being in a safe place. Like we didn't have a bed for 3 days. Like me and my kind of assistant and mate Mitch were just in a Jeep, in the middle of the desert while you want to scratch your eyeballs out and they're just burning. It just felt.
And when you have to use
It
your
was
eyes
stinging,
as your job.
yeah, and it was just painful, and it just didn't feel safe. So anyway, that was just an extra side layer to it all, but we got through it. And
So what would 500 kilometers, 24 hours a day, because someone has to be running at all times. You're the only cameraman or camera person, so you're filming 24 hours a day, or how does that actually work?
I filmed non-stop for probably I filmed absolutely non-stop, really. The only times I wasn't filming, actually with the record button on, would have been just when we were driving from one spot to the other, or maybe I would be in the Jeep for a little bit. But if you look at the time codes from all the footage, there's not really anything longer than a couple of hours in between. 4 hours of shut eye. I wouldn't even call it sleep in total. So it was just, it was
wild.
We were in the trenches,
Did the conjunctivitis stay for this whole time?
Whole thing, It cleared up. We obviously got into Vegas, and we were so knackered that we thought, oh, we'll stuff it. We're just going to stay up and celebrate the fact that we actually got here. So in true me style, absolutely had a great time by the time I got there. But it started to clear up by the time we got into Vegas. Like obviously the medicine was working, but it was
sorry,
crazy.
the details. I need
I'll give
all
you,
of them.
No.
So how many days did it take to run the
So
500?
I think we got there in 2.5.
Okay.
2.5 days. It was 52 hours or something.
And how many people raced? Teams?
Yep. Oh, that's a question I couldn't ask.
Okay.
But what I could say is that down to thousands of people. Thousands. Hundreds of teams. Yeah. Hundreds of teams.
Oh, wait, it was an event that was already on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
couple of people from Melbourne went over as a
Yeah,
team.
so we got selected.
Ah,
So
okay.
so you get selected. You can't just like apply.
Right.
You have to like you've got to get selected, or you've got to reach out to them on Instagram and hope. Like it's quite underground, but it's getting to a point where it also isn't.
Right.
But teams will use it as an opportunity, or brands will use it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Excuse me, for content. Or not even content, but just for, brand awareness activation, grassroots activation things. So, you'll have teams out there, Solomon, Nike, Arc'teryx, you'll have there'll be a team, and the more elite teams that are actually trying to win, will be out there. But there's also just like all these other teams where it's like we met this all women's, Indigenous American team, and like they were awesome, and they were just wearing all of their beautiful dresses the whole time that they ran. And that was really cool.
Whose idea was it to make a feature film?
Yeah, that was my idea.
Whoops.
So the two boys that contacted me, we'd like you to come over, would you be interested in filming for the Speed project? And straight away I was definitely interested. It was a pretty clearly indicated that it wouldn't be like a business, like a financial opportunity. It'd be more like, an opportunity for me to create something that I liked. So I thought at that point, well, I'm not just interested in I don't just want to make some social content. And I think this is a big enough opportunity to try and shoot something larger. So I just went back to them with a pitch kind of to, I'd like to do this, and they were pretty stoked, and
I bet
they were really excited. So that's where it started. Yeah.
And what has been, given that you said, financially it was one of those things you have to kind of just take the fall for, knowing that what you will have, I imagine, learnt on this experience would have just been completely priceless and invaluable.
Absolutely.
What has been the biggest takeaway and learning?
The biggest takeaway? Look, there's a lot of like smaller detailed bits in terms of I can talk about, as a filmmaker. I do feel like this was, like I didn't study film. I'm self-taught in anything motion. So this felt like almost doing like my master's, if that, in terms of doing a big project, like a feature end to end. I think on more of a personal level, I just kind of realized that I can do it. Like this idea to most people in the industry of doing a feature is this big scary thing, and it should be, because tell you what, it's like it's a lot. It's a lot to make 60 minutes of something that's of some quality, or to keep the audience engaged. It takes an incredible amount of work, so you should be nervously excited. But the biggest thing I think I took away for me was that I can do it, and that like I do, like at least when it comes to, and again this is the double-edged sword that I'm trying to work on, but I do have like an absolute strength and confidence in that when it comes to it. Like I can you will never, you won't stop me. Like I have a real power. It's almost like a dangerous power to be like, I could stay awake for a week with a camera. It's bad. It's like, and I can get through it, and then it's going to be okay. I think the biggest thing I've taken away from this is it's going to be okay. Like relationships were seriously sacrificed. Lots of things were sacrificed. A lot of people, especially my partner, like really like took a hit through this, and it can never ever happen the way it happened again. So that's another big learning. And yeah, the big learning is like, I can do it. It's possible, but what's worth it and what's not.
Sounds like it really like affirmed your confidence in many ways, of course. And I can't wait. Maisy's been raving about the final product, so I can't wait to see it. But I'm also interested, like, for how much of that experience, both before and during, was your, 6-year-old self in the driver's seat?
Oh, that just gave me goosebumps.
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I think I know, always there, always. And that's like that unbreakable bit. So it's really interesting, like in therapy and stuff, as you get more healed there, I worry a little bit. I'm like, am I going to lose this?
Drive.
Am I going to lose this
relentless.
relentless fire? But yeah, question, was he there? Yeah, always. I think it's always there. I think he's always there. I've got this thing that I do in my head, which is a bit more deeper, but like I'll imagine my head like walking up to him in this particular classroom and just giving him a hug. So I don't mind if he's there, or he's always going to be there. Like that's always going to be there, like that. As long as I remind myself that it's not all of it.
You're not defined.
I'm not defined by, I'm not defined by the work I have to do, but if I need to find it somewhere, I have that there.
But also, sorry, I'm going to keep going. Like, what if you were to lose that relentless ethic?
That's a interesting one too. I mean, I would probably be okay. Such a good question. I'm not sure because I don't know me without it.
Can I ask it in another way? How do you think your life would change for the better?
I feel like my mental health would be probably a little better. I feel like I would. I'd probably be a bit more peaceful. I mean, I've come a long way. Like I'm trying to value peace a lot more.
Beautiful.
So I've come a long way. And it doesn't rule me. Like it's not like ever, but I think if I was to not have that part, I probably would be even more peaceful. Where I would be like, for example, today's like I took yesterday off because of the big shoot on the weekend, and even today I was like, oh, I'm just I'm not quite ready to like have my big full productive day yet. But because of that guy, I get a little bit like, come on, dude, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. There's like always a constant pressure. So I'd probably lose that. How would I feel? Not sure.
Well, I think it's like the ultimate threat.
Yeah.
Especially like in our society, which prizes success, financial, material, career success as like, at the top.
Yeah.
That for many of us, and I ask these questions because obviously I can personally relate, right? But for many of us, like our drive to be at the top is because we're so scared of being at the bottom, or because we felt like we're at the bottom before because of these experiences.
Yeah, of course.
And so this idea of feeling as though we lose that drive is like terrifying, because it's like, what about the free fall of then feeling as though I'm going to end up at the bottom again?
Yeah.
But the great paradox of all of that is that like you can still be successful without being motivated by fear. Like you can still motivate yourself to success through like exploration, and joy and excitement,
God,
and like
true.
that's like what I like. For me, that's what I'm really trying to work on at the moment. Like, how can I motivate myself from a place of like excitement and energy as opposed to fear?
Yeah,
and
that's interesting.
It's so hard.
You put that in a really good way. Yeah, that's definitely a road that I'm still very much trying to work on. Yeah, it ebbs and flows, I think. I think sometimes I can be more motivated by fear, and then others I can definitely like notice that I'm more motivated from a point of, oh, it's all good, dude. Like the groundwork's okay. You're all good, and this thing's exciting. That will be the forever pursuit for me, I would say. Be untapping that part. Yeah.
You spoke about peace.
Yeah.
And I love the word peace and calm. Just even hearing the words make me feel something viscerally. How do you find peace?
How do I find peace?
I know you're a big nature boy.
Yeah. For sure, getting away. So I grew up in, on the edge of kind of country Victoria. So space is huge. Getting away from concrete. Lots of space, lots of nature. Just trying to, I think what I really like and what helps me feel peaceful is like finding things that make me childlike. Not childish, but childlike. So that idea that you let your brain kind of just imagine. And for me, those things are being outside, listening, music. I love music. So taking myself to certain festivals or things, and that isn't just to indulge in, what comes with being at a festival. That is also just, I think it's a beautiful time to reflect. Like, you're listening to music, you're surrounded by other people that are also letting their hair down. So like that kind of
Expression.
and honestly, I love to dance. Like, I love to dance. There's actually a funny part of me that probably would have even pursued professional dance, actually. Like, I love to dance. So just anything that childlike, movement, sport, nature,
Stomp in the bush.
stomping in the bush.
What about we went for dinner recently?
We did go
we
for dinner.
went for dinner. I don't think I told you this, but on a Sunday, it was so nice at this place called Bahari. Shout out to Phil at Bahari
shout
and
out to
Pilks.
Phil.
Anyway, we went for dinner, and then the boys had a friend that were playing at Revs. It was like a Sunday upper, so we just went to Revs like
On a
after
Sunday,
dinner.
we
on
did.
a Sunday
And had a
uppo.
little dance, didn't
Had
we?
a little dance. I was driving. Was pretty much completely sober.
Yeah,
Had
I
a couple of
drove.
wines.
I
at
mean, we were
dinner.
only there for an hour. Then we
Yeah.
got parks out the front and then drove home. But
It's
it
the
was
way to do
fun.
it.
It's the way to do
We
it.
went and had a little stomp around at Revs, and then we
Yeah.
were like, "All right, bye," and
Yeah.
went to bed Sunday night.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, absolutely. And I think that's what it is. What brings me peace is, really like all those childlike activities. Even my partner and I were like, let's go buy some coloring books and let's color. I don't know, like, you don't always need to be an adult.
Good to use your hands.
Like,
and-
using yeah. Do you know what? Absolutely, that writing makes me feel peaceful. Do a lot of writing. And then the other things when I really need it, like the toolkits, like obviously meditation, big time. I'm not doing it enough at the moment. I went through an awesome stint where I almost did it every day for a year.
Epic.
And I think I've forgotten how that felt. So, all of those things. But yeah.
I want to come back to the feature film because I'm
Yep.
curious about your recovery. So you're at this epic experience. It's like you get to Vegas. It sounds like you have a fun bender or something. But like, what happens next? How do you like come down from that? Because I imagine there's a lot of editing and everything that goes into like after the actual event.
Yeah, the editing. And you must have captured, if you're recording pretty much 24 hours a day, you would have had to trawl through tons of content.
Yeah, and it's not even just the footage from what we got there. Like, it's the months and months leading up to it as well. All the interviews, all the like establishing shots of Melbourne. Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, we probably had 50 to 70 terabytes of footage. So that's,
Oh my God.
that's like 70,000 gig.
I feel
Well,
really
Amy's
stressed.
looking over like, whoa.
So it was bananas. And what happened when I came home was I really rejected the project, to be honest.
I bet.
There's a bit full transparency and people that are involved in this project know this, and they should know it. I seriously rejected the project when I came home. It made me angry, and it made me angry because I was sad of how hard I had to put myself through. I think just quickly touching on being out there is I definitely came home. My psych said it's not PTSD, but you have battle fatigue is what we would have called it. So some of it felt PTSD. Like, I was waking for the good first week after coming home. I was throwing my legs out of the bed when I would wake up, like at any point in the night, because I had to go.
Oh my gosh.
So
Whoa.
I mean, that's PTSD. That feels
Yeah.
like that's what it was for me. So just getting my nervous system off fight or flight took a fucking way longer than I thought it would. I mean, only a couple of weeks, but that wasn't a nice feeling being in that. Physically, just ruined, like I've had glandular fever since the days of uni of pushing myself. So, that was all flaring up, sick, congested, just all of it. And I've been like that since. So you can still hear it in me. It's just been a thing since. So, recovering from that was a really interesting thing. I really pushed the doco away, and I didn't get onto the post-production stage probably when I should, because I actually just really resented it because of how hard it was. And full honesty, I resented it because the way that it affected my relationships. It really affected my romantic relationship, and it was hard to see. It was really hard to hear from your partner, like, hey, I love you and I'm here for you and I'll always be here for you. But like, I can never take on this again. That comes a lot of guilt and shame. And she wasn't obviously saying any of that to make me feel guilty, but because of how much I care so much, and I care so much about the people around me, and I feel a lot. I really took a lot of it on, and so there was a lot to kind of come back to and kind of find my equilibrium, and I eventually got there. And then once it got back into the editing stage of this thing, then it just got hard again. So yeah, it's been it was really hard. I mean, the last month of the doc, it was 3 hours a night of sleep for easily like 3 weeks, and then before that, maybe four, maybe 5. I was doing type of things where I would work from 9 a.m. till 10 p.m., have dinner, a late dinner, have taken a nap till like 12 or 1, and then get up and then work till sunrise. Like it was just
Matty.
stupid shit.
Wow.
Stupid shit. But it was the only way I could get it done because I couldn't get the support. I can't say too much on that, but couldn't get what I needed. And I'm not quite sure, in full transparency, if the people I was working with understood what it takes to do something like this, and that resulted in, I had eventually got some help from a friend of mine called Darcy. Massive shout out to Darcy. We would not have had the documentary at all without him. And we just dug in and
produced something fucking phenomenal.
oh,
I don't know.
we got there. We made something.
You made something special.
Yeah, so it was just as hard as the last month of the editing was was harder than being out there. Easily.
Oh my gosh.
Easily. Just
And again, would you do it again?
not like this.
Yeah.
No.
And that's like
No way.
when your health is that compromised, like how much, even just like that level of lack of sleep is just not.
Yeah, like the sleep deprivation's a whole other thing, and not to say I've mastered it. I don't think it's something you should master, but I definitely like I have experienced full hallucination. Like let's be real, we've all taken stuff or smoked weed or whatever. Like you feel that level of discombobulation from sleep. Like I was like I was forgetting things. I would have meetings with the producers and then be texting me after. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I missed the meeting, and I had the meeting that morning.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so my brain was a very
That's a long road back too.
It's been a really long road back, mentally and physically, and it hasn't quite felt. What I've been saying to mates and stuff is I just feel like I'm getting to 80%. Like I don't feel like I have actually worried if I've done any long term damage. My memory has been seriously sacrificed. I've noticed that my memory's been a bit damaged. Like I'm not remembering things well. So look, it's okay. I've got a confidence in me that I'll get there. Have this operation, and I'm taking the boot off, and I know what is required and needed to make something like this. And I also absolutely know what I would, what I wouldn't and wouldn't do. And I don't know, as much as all of this sounds really hard and dramatic, and it was stupidly hard, from all the interviews and things I've watched from other big filmmakers and everything, it seems like in one way or another they've had to go through the fire at least once. How are you meant to know what it's like to make a feature film without just making a feature film? So at least I know.
Off the back of all of that and where you still are now, and I'm not sure how to ask this question the right way because I'm sure that you would have watched it in full before you were sitting in the cinema seeing your own feature film. But what was the feeling in you when you saw it on the big screen for the first time?
Really nerve-wracking. Like, how was it? I think, the first, I got to do like a short little test. Not long enough, actually. We only got a 5-minute test, so that wasn't great. So it did feel good. I actually was shocked. I was like, oh, this looks better than I was expecting. So,
nice.
Excitement. And then the night of, probably once we got about 10 minutes in, then I had this overwhelming feeling of like, well, actually did this. Like we actually got it there. And there's 250 people in here watching it. And there were like woos, and like when the opening credits were coming out, like people were like cheering, and I like that energy. And to, yeah, it's easily got to be one of the most rewarding feelings, like when there's a funny moment and they laugh, or there's a serious moment and people are quiet, and to see your work being received in the way it was intended was, it's like the best thing ever.
Did you feel relief?
Yeah, I did. I felt an enormous amount of relief. Yeah, huge. Like insane. I think a lot of my mates probably have lots to say on this too, but I kept saying to them, I'll have everything back once this is done. Like I'll be like have my life back. So, an insane amount of relief. Yeah. I felt trapped by my own project.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
So I guess what comes next now, I mean, obviously, hopefully you're taking some decent time off and having a bit of a break. And then obviously you've got your production space. But yeah, what does it look like? Are you attacking any more feature films in the foreseeable future?
I don't think I will be having a crack at a feature for a bit. I think I definitely, not in the aspect I did it, to give context, I wasn't, I'm pursuing the role of a cinematographer, or in our industry, a DOP, a director of photographer. I would happily jump on a feature and shoot in that capacity. I mean, that would be big, but it's one thing. I mean, me and myself and 5 other people pulled together a feature film, like from everything. So, I directed, edited, shot, color graded, gave direction on the music and set, like a lot. So not in that capacity, but in the capacity of the role that I, dream to work full time in, yes. But the main focus at the moment is just the absolute number one focus is my health. Yeah. So
it's time for that to take the front seat.
Yeah, and it never has.
Yeah.
It never properly has. So it's just, getting my health back and on track and doing that all well. And then, launching this new studio. The documentary was made under my new kind of studio. But yeah, we haven't kind of advertised or shown anything yet. So we're just working on all of the startup business stuff at the moment and figuring out fun, which is fun, and that feels like another like great new challenge. But I think the funny thing is I feel like the doc has made me like it actually feels easy. Feels easy after that. It's got its own little challenges for sure, but that's where the focus is at the moment, building the new business.
So one of the main reasons why we started this podcast was because we're trying to answer for ourselves, like whether it is actually possible to maintain this drive and this desire for success, but also to maintain our health and our well-being and our relationships and the things that matter. And I'm curious where you fit into that question.
Is it possible to rush slowly? I was having to think about this. I do think so at points and periods. I don't think it's even fair to expect yourself to be able to rush slowly all the time. That is an equal balance of things that doesn't exist. I do think it should be your North Star, or for me at least, I'm trying to be like, okay, in this month there has to be like, where's the week of rushing slowly? If I could have 1 week a month where I felt in balance, or maybe it should be more than that, but but I think it's a hard thing, because let's say you do want to have a crack at something you've never done before, and you want to really push the needle forward in your career, or maybe your career's all good, but maybe you're getting into, a new romantic relationship, and that's, that requires a lot of you as well. So, maybe it's too hard to expect from yourself that you're always going to have the equal balance, but at least you can be conscious of, okay, this week I actually must have equal parts work to equal parts rest. Or maybe you've just done 2. Like I just had the really big weekend, 3 15-hour days.
Yeah.
My Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday have to be slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Like a
so
trade-off.
that's it's a trade. It's like a trade-off. And it's just the nature of my industry. Like my industry is you're either absolutely go or you're and I've kind of it's kind of you absolutely go or you'll stop. I would absolutely go and then in my stop still be going to hustle more, where I've got to a much more peaceful place of the work's there, it's okay, and it's coming, and you've set up, you know, your other business things, so things are okay. But yeah, the rushing, it is possible. It's just different for everyone. I think it's different for everyone, and it kind of ebbs and flows. And
well, someone in our community sent me a link to something, which you've just reminded me of it. I think it's called the burner theory. Have I spoken about this on the podcast before? Maybe I might have spoken about this before, but there's an article I want to say on James Clear's blog. He writes the book about habit formation.
Yeah.
And the burner theory is that, like, if you think about a stove top with like 4 different flames, that like if you've got all of your pots on the stove, like you can't have all flames going maximum all the time. Like it doesn't have enough gas or whatever. And so the idea is like maybe it's your career, your relationships, your health, and your kids or whatever it is. And that like at certain times, like you need to turn certain burners down and turn other burners up. And it's about like juggling like which burners are going at which season of your life.
For sure. That's such an awesome visual way to think about it. And that's definitely where I've been getting. In the past, have just been like, they're all cranked up and they're all going. And then the thing that...
And then conjunctivitis.
And then sickness. So turning them up and down when you can, and just being clear and communicative to your community when it is time to go, and just being like, okay, hey, I love you so much. The next 2 weeks are going to be absolutely turbo. I'm here for you. But at the same time, I'm going to be holding onto a few more oranges for me. And just knowing like all your mates are on that, they know, and having those communication beforehand, and to your family and parents. So you know, that helps, I think, too. So they don't just get caught out of the blue and be like, why aren't you messaging? Why aren't you replying to, you know, having those pre setups, and that's perfect. And that's what it is about. Absolutely. It's like some turn up and some turn down. And
it all comes down to expectation, right? If you can communicate effectively before, then you won't be letting other people's expectations down.
That's everything. But I love the burner top thing. I think that's probably where it will sit. Having all of them always equally thing. I don't even think that exists. That's not a thing. Yeah.
Not a thing.
And if it just takes you so much longer to get to the end result if you've got them all going, right? Like if they're all
dimmed, right?
For sure.
You know, and I'm just like imagining cooking pasta, and I'm like, sometimes
why is the water not boiling?
Or sometimes the end result, if you let it, you know, cook away for a long period of time, it does taste good. But the reality is when you have all 4 just absolutely firing, it's actually going to take you so much longer to get there than if you just integrate those little moments of rest and recoup and spending time with your loved ones.
And sometimes one of them's got to go all the way off.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, sometimes they do. And that's, I think, what this holiday period is for. And just go out somewhere and don't take your laptop.
Yes. Yeah. We were just talking
I'm
about
challenging everyone. I'm challenging Megzy to go on a road trip and not take her laptop.
Oh, that's a great shout. You're going to take your laptop on your road trip.
Oh, I'll definitely take it.
Yeah.
Sorry, what? Coming from you.
Sorry.
Pot calling the kettle bloody black.
Miss Goose.
But before we ask our final question, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to share?
Yeah. I think the burner thing's a great one. Like, just if people can just remember to like turn their burners down, and circling back to what I said before for the dudes out there, you are way stronger and way better talking and understanding who you are. Like, absolutely do that. That's gonna change your life in ways you couldn't have even thought of. Yeah.
And the flow on from that is that it actually changes the world.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
The people that you're in relationships with as men, like the flow and the work that you do, everything.
Yeah.
Like
it's actually our responsibility to as men these days, it is our responsibility to funnel out the kind of holding on to your emotions, like kind of having the armor on. It is our responsibility to let that die out, not just for us and our own well-being, but also for the women in our lives. And it's only going to be a safer and better space if we can all just learn to communicate how we feel. It's absolutely the responsibility. Yeah.
I love that.
Mm.
So with all of that being said, we've touched a little bit on your resources and how you do slow down and help yourself to feel better and to recover. But at the moment, what is helping you to slow down?
Fantastic, isn't it, that question?
Really holding the mirror right up.
Yeah.
Holding the mirror right up. I think turning my burners off when I need to, and not beating myself up, like just have the big weekend, and the last 2 days I've jumped on my emails once. Just turning those burners off is helping me to slow down. I think my friendships and turning that burner back up is helping me to slow down in my other parts. And honestly, the weather, and it is, the sunny season, and lapping that up and making that a priority. If it is, I'm very lucky, and not everyone can do this, but I'm lucky that, if it is a sunny day, like I will try schedule my day that I'm out in the sun a little bit more. That's, all of those things are helping me to slow down. Just turning some of the work burners off. The world's going to keep going. You got to be okay. Like we live in utopia. You'll be fine. Yeah, they're the little things helping me. Yeah.
So, Matty Thomas, where do we find you on the socials? What's your handles and all that jazz?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at met_DOP. That's really the main place. You can find all the other bits from there. I mean, shout out, LinkedIn's blowing off at the moment. So far out, like get around LinkedIn. And then from there, you'll find, all the information regarding Bound by Distance and the Instagram accounts there for that, and the new production studio. You'll find all the bits you need through there.
Watch this space, Bound by Distance.
Watch this space. Shout out PV Road Studios. That's gonna be the big one next year. So,
Epic.
yeah.
And I mean, on that, like, what about the actual doco? I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah. So with the doco, we're in film festival stage at the moment. So just submitting to film festivals. So if that gets picked up from any national film festival, which I have confidence it will, it's just whether it gets into one of the majors. So
MIF.
MIF, please.
Where you at?
Where you're at. That would be great. And then, so, I'll be pretty active across all the socials about where it gets picked up and where people can go see it. And then from there, the pursuits to let it land on a streaming platform. ABC, iView, Stan. I would like to see it land on an Australian thing, so we'll see. But yeah, that's where it will be. Unfortunately, it can't really quite be viewed just now. However, on socials, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of great clips from it, and lots of still frames and things like that.
I know.
Yeah.
We've stalked. But I have no doubt, knowing you, and, I've said it to you multiple times, like, you are just to the moon and beyond, and it's really exciting to just be in the corner just watching, and can't wait to see it in the bright lights and see you just continue to grow and thrive and create, because you're just one of the all-time greats. So we very much appreciate you for coming on here, taking the time out after stomping around all weekend.
And also just for your vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like, it's so special to have you share so openly. I know that everyone listening is really grateful to, like, get an insight into your inner world and your experience of burnout and your childhood, and, like, don't take that stuff lightly.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and thanks for holding this space. It's special.
Yeah, and don't forget about us when you're really famous.
Yeah.
Yes. Right back at you.
Yes.
Right back at you.
I expect to
I don't know
be
about that.
ushered through in the VIP line, please.
Oh.
Not like when we were trying to get into
I know.
Revs the other night. It was real. Like we're like,
It was a bit stressful.
it was stressful. We weren't on the guest list. Oh, these guys were and we weren't, and it was like this.
Oh.
So
We
yeah,
were, but
none
we
of
were.
that, please. When
No,
you're
no.
famous,
We'll see you on the
just
red
want-
carpet.
I should do.
Yeah.
We'll see. The goal is to eventually just have the Nokia, so you'll be able to call me, but no social media.
Oh,
nice.
okay.
That is the
dumb
dream.
phone.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
By 40, I'd like to fully I'll clean slate all my socials.
Yeah.
Forget about that.
Take me with you.
Yeah, that's the dream. We'll see.
That's amazing.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye.
Matty.
The content discussed in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If any of the topics we've covered today feel overwhelming, we recommend seeking individual support. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or 13 Yarn on 13 92 76.